Welcome to the GoldenEdge podcast. I'm joined by John Common today, and we are going to be talking about some horror movies. So, welcome to the show, John.
Thank you.
So how are you at the minute?
Good. I just had a little bit of a rest, so I'm like back to work again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took 2 days off. I'm so kind to myself.
You're your own boss, so it's probably a little easy to be kind to yourself.
Yeah, I am going to try and I think take a little more time off for the rest of this weekend. Because I just bought a PS4 and now I'm like, I should actually take time off and play games on this thing to justify its cost. So I've got Until Dawn, which is the horror game to play tomorrow.
Oh yeah. It's like a sort of survival horror as well.
Yeah, I've heard it. I know nothing of it. I bought it based on it's good and you might like it. Mm-hmm. From what I've heard, it is a horror movie director simulator more than anything else. It's just kind of controlling the actions of various characters to see what you want to see, which sounds really interesting. So I'm looking forward to playing that tomorrow. The
thing that caught my eye about it was it's actually a fixed camera angle, which is really nice to see again. Yeah,
the old Resident Evil style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the gameplay doesn't sound like there is really gameplay, as you said. So
yeah, I mean, I don't mind that kind of stuff. I'm quite a fan of I can't remember the name of the studio, but Fahrenheit and Heavy Rain and Beyond. I really love those games. I'm the kind of person that I don't just play it like a game. I play it this is the movie I want to watch. So it can be pretty entertaining. I should stream some of those because I've played those games so much. Just I don't know. I remember Fahrenheit has bits where you can switch between characters, and I totally just inhabit those characters when I'm in control of them, and just make it the way I want it to be. And I remember Fahrenheit as a bit where your two characters and one's phoning the other one and trying to get them to come into work, and I'm just switching between them and ignoring the phone of the second one and making him go back to bed. It's that's the movie I want to see, so that's what I do.
It's a game I've actually never played, but I've always meant to pick up, and I always get recommended to play it. Actually,
it's a good game. It's definitely something that's nice to an audience could watch that pretty easily, as long as you kind of play it with that in mind.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's actually been, I can't believe it's actually already been 4 months since we were last talking, but has there been much progress in Deadpixel 2, or have you just been...
It's kind of hard for me to actually remember where I was 4 months ago. I want to say in that time, if I hadn't hired another artist, I was just at the early stages of doing that. So I've now got a second artist that's basically working on everything that's hard for me, and that's been really great for I can actually go away for a few days and he can be working on art. And anything that would take me maybe a week to do, he could do in a few days. And so it's really great to have that, just to kind of free me up to do some of the more just coding stuff while he's doing art. And it also means that I can be, it means updates sometimes feel a bit bigger when I'm putting out updates to testers, because he can. I've got stuff that he's done art for it, and then the art's just kind of waiting for me to get the coding done, and so it just feels like a much easier, it feels like much less work from my point of view, and a bigger return for people that play it.
Yeah. So it's coming up to Halloween, so it's pretty appropriate to talk about some horror movies and stuff like that. Do you have any sort of Halloween traditions, or anything you used to do as a kid?
There's a weird tradition as a kid that I'm not sure how much of Britain it's spread through, but when I was young, we would carve turnips. And I don't know if that's something that happened everywhere else.
It didn't catch on over here.
Yeah, it was just kind of pumpkins. They're an American thing. You don't.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw one in a store, and I was just these are real. I thought these were just an American TV.
Yeah.
No, it's I live in rural Scotland, so I think one of the local farmers would donate turnips to our primary school, and we'd get to carve turnips. And like one of my friends, he went to America and he told the Americans that we did this, and I don't think they were that impressed with like our attempts to recreate what they did.
Is there any sort of movies or anything that you'd watch around this time of year, like, or?
I've never really done anything for Halloween. I
Really?
have to say it's kind of weird. Like once I kind of like got out of like primary school, like Halloween just kind of became another day for me. Like a few years I've gone to parties, but it's not been that many. I have to say, which is kind of sad. Like every year, I'm always like a bit disappointed when I find out about people doing like horror movie marathons.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're watching a movie each day, and I'm always like, oh, I wish I'd thought ahead and like planned movies I could watch. Instead, I get like to the 5th of October, and I'm just like, oh, it would have been good if I'd done something like that, but I didn't.
We used to have like a bonfire every Halloween, then we'd have fireworks and stuff like that, but over here actually fireworks are now banned. They're actually illegal. They have been for...
entirely, or...?
Yeah, you can't buy them in a shop anymore.
Oh.
There are ways of getting them, but they're kind of underhanded, you know. I mean, it used to be you could walk into a supermarket here and buy fireworks right off the shelf, but I think someone must have like used them to, I don't know, either they must have blown their hand off or something, and it's just they've now just been completely illegal.
I want to say there's certain laws in cities here,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's to do with like certain times of the year. Like I think like bonfire night, like fireworks are allowed, but I'm not entirely sure. I know that like cities there's issues with like noise,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not really sure. Bonfire night's like another thing that's like, when I was young, that was something, but like it's kind of disappeared as like I've gotten older, and it's just like, nah, fireworks, they're not as interesting as they once were.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want a bit of background actually about whenever you're growing up and stuff, because it's easy for people nowadays to get sort of access to loads of horror movies and loads of different things, but I mean, certainly whenever I was growing up, you were sort of at the mercy of what was either on TV or what was in the cinema or what you could actually rent on videotape. So how did you access horror movies when you were younger, or what are your early memories of them?
I think it was like a combination of like my dad's like obsession of recording films on TV. It wasn't even like films he liked, but he just kind of like archived them. And so like I'd go through them if like a tape said something on it that sounded interesting, like Aliens. I was like, I like Aliens, I'll watch that. And then it kind of was also like, as I got older, like just staying up through the night and watching movies at like 2 a.m. And like also sometimes it feels like I can't stay up for that, but I could set the video recorder to just keep recording until it runs out of tape, and it'll probably catch that movie. And so I'd do that as well. Yeah,
that is kind of, it depends on your environment and who's around you, because I remember going to like a cousin's house or something, and he had the videotape of Hellraiser, and I just remember the front cover of the guy with all the pins out of his head. It must have been, is that Hellraiser 2 or maybe it's 3 or something?
That's Hellraiser 1. He was on the front cover of it anyway.
Okay.
He's in all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember that image, and that was really enough to terrify me when I was pretty young.
It's really weird. I always remembered the lines more than I remembered the pins. Like I remember he had the grid on his face. That's what really stuck out to me. But I think it must have been like Hellraiser 3, because that was in the 90s. I remember like seeing the posters for that in Blockbuster, even though I didn't. I think I used to just like go into I never had a Blockbuster card. My mum got one like when I was like maybe 14, 15. So like I think I just went into Blockbuster to look at the films. Yeah. Because they also had games. So like that was why I would go in there. But like, so yeah, I think I would like remember posters and stuff from horror movies as well.
My dad would take me, and we would get like, I think there was a deal where you get like 3 videos for £3 or something, and I think I probably watched everything in our tiny shop that had all the films. Yeah,
I mean I used to get like some movies like rented, but it was kind of like, can I convince my mum to get me this horror movie? Like I was quite happy when because I don't know how it originally happened, but like I somehow I saw Aliens because I found the tape. And then, like, I think I got, like, the other films, like, seen because they were late on TV or something. But then when Alien Resurrection came out, it's like, well, that's not going to be on TV. I need to get that somehow. And I somehow convinced my mum to rent it for me when I was, like, 12.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what year that film came out. It was late 90s, so I could have been a bit younger.
Yeah.
I was definitely in primary school anyway. But, yeah, I was able to convince my mum to rent some movies for me.
In the last time I was talking to you, you said there were some Hellraiser references in Deadpixels too. I just wondered if you wanted to maybe talk about them. And
there's a few. It's kind of like some lines of dialogue. I don't know. I find like Hellraiser has a lot of really good. I don't know. Some movies have just really good lines of dialogue, and so like a couple of the shopkeepers, like their dialogue's based on lines from Hellraiser. Just stuff like "I recommend amputation" and "What's your pleasure, sir?"
Yeah.
There's like a store named after a Hellraiser line. I don't know, like some movies are just very quotable to me.
I know.
And I'm not sure why some are and some are not.
Yeah, certain lines just stay in my head as well. It's like one day I was driving in at the night time with my wife, and my lights were on, but she didn't think they were on. She was like, she said something like, "Can you see okay?" And I was like, "I see everything," like, you know, like the Terminator. Certain things you just can't help but say from movies, and I suppose that's what's happening when you're in the creative process of making a game. These things must just pop into your head, I suppose.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, I remember I was watching Gremlins 2, and there's a line in it where a janitor's fixing a sink, and he just at one point says to the sink, "You shall taste my wrench." And I was just like, that's awesome. I need to take that line and put it somewhere. So at some point in Dead Pixels, there will be some variant of "You shall taste my wrench." Just because I thought it was such a great line. There's also a movie... I've named a character after a line, well, just two words put together in a movie called America 3000. It's not really horror, but it's like post-apocalyptic sci-fi. It's not set in the year 3000, although it's called America 3000. And like, I don't know what they're talking about. They've got like this future like slang for everything. They don't say "I saw this," they say "I scanned it." But like at one point they referred to something as Macho Steel. I think it's guns. I think they're called Guns Macho Steel. But I was just like, Macho Steel sounds great. I need to name a character Macho Steel. And so I just take all these little lines from all over the place and just kind of put them together. It's kind of like League of Gentlemen. They took a lot of lines from films and stuff and like based entire characters off them. And I've recently been like catching up a little on like Vincent Price horror movies, because Arrow Video put out a few, and they done like a League of Gentlemen. They brought them together to do a commentary on Theatre of Blood, and so they were like bringing up like, oh, this scene was the basis of this character in League of Gentlemen.
I'm really bad for the old school horror movies. Like, I don't know if I've seen a lot of the like Hammer House.
I wasn't a big fan of them, but like it's literally like the League of Gentlemen stuff pulled me into getting the Arrow Video releases of these Vincent Price movies, and so like I also bought the two Dr. Phibes movies because they had like a little documentary where it was just the League of Gentlemen discussing it, and it kind of made me like appreciate like British horror, like old British horror. I kind of wouldn't mind like investigating more of that, especially like the Vincent Price stuff. I've not seen a mass amount of his older things. It's like most of the stuff I know him from is like when he was much older, you know, in like the 80s, where he just kind of like show up for 5 minutes, or you know, stuff like he's in Edward Scissorhands for like a few minutes and just stuff like that. And I've only seen like a handful of movies where he's been like the main character.
I don't think I've seen any. What other movies has he been in? Or I'm not sure.
He's in. I'm trying to remember what it's called. There's like a zombie buddy cop movie he's the villain in.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what else he's been in that's like newer. Nothing's coming to mind. You know, he died in like 91. So.
Okay. Oh right. Okay. So it's going way back then.
Yeah, like you know, most of his movies are like 60s, 70s. I think some in the 50s as well, like Last Man on Earth, which was there's been 3 versions of it now. Last Man on Earth, Omega Man, and I Am Legend.
I've seen Omega Man, yeah.
I've not actually seen Omega Man. That's on my Amazon wish list just now. I really want to see that because I've seen I Am Legend. I've seen.
I think it's slightly better than I Am Legend because they're kind of more zombies. I found.
They're supposed to be based on vampires.
Yeah.
Which is like that's what the book was more about. That's why like they don't like sunlight and like they drink blood.
And it's kind of weird. In Omega Man, from memory now, it's probably been about 4 years since I watched it, but the vampire/zombie kind of things, they actually they have conversations with the Last Man on Earth.
Yeah, if I remember right, like based on The Last Man on Earth, which was the original movie. I've not read the book, but there's like 2 kinds. And there's the kind that's like mindless, and then there's the kind that actually still retains their like mind. And the whole point of like the novel is that like he has become like this monster to them because he's killing them without caring what kind they are. And it's like the whole title I Am Legend is because like their children will remember him as this monster that like hunted them. Because he just didn't realize that like no, some of them are civilized, but he's just been killing them all and like not knowing the difference. I think the movie like makes the Vincent Price movie, it makes a distinction between like dead and infected. Like the ones that are dead, like they're gone, they're mindless, but the ones that are just infected but still alive, they're the ones that can be like cured to the point of being semi-human again.
Yeah, I didn't actually I knew that I Am Legend was based on a book, and I knew that Omega Man was out, but I didn't know there was one even before that, so I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, I think it has like the best like tagline ever of like the last man on Earth isn't alone.
Yeah.
Which was what kind of like pulled me into tracking it down.
From memory, Omega Man, there is a female lead in it, which sort of goes against the whole Last Man. I don't know if she's like a...
I don't know, as I said, I've not seen Omega Man, but I know there's like a woman is like... This is me totally getting into like the spoilers of The Last Man on Earth, but like basically a woman that's like is infected, like basically semi gets captured by him.
Yes.
Like he thinks that she's human too, and like then finds out, oh no, she's actually one of these, and like she had basically like went to like hopefully learn why the hell he was killing them.
Yeah, that's probably what happened in Omega Man 2 from memory.
Yeah, I think I Am Legend, it's just a healthy woman, not one of the vampires. I was actually,
that's right.
I don't know if you've seen the alternate ending to I Am Legend.
I think I might have.
It's much better and makes more sense with the rest of the movie. Like I actually hate that film went out with its original ending. Not its original ending, the original theatrical ending. Because that one just kind of like discards a whole of the little plot lines,
right,
and then has this like stupid ending.
Yeah,
and
Hollywood
like
ending.
Whereas like it's I don't know, I'd be totally getting into spoilers, but it's like it's much more of that original like idea of like he has became this monster to them. Whereas like the Hollywood ending's just like, nah, they're the monsters.
Yeah.
And Will Smith.
And we're the humans, and we're the superior master race.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a shame that movie went out with that ending, but yeah, I don't think it's a bad movie as long as you watch that you stop it at one point and switch to the other ending.
I must have a look out for that. Actually, I think I may be wrong, but I think it was on the DVD I got at one point.
It probably is. I can't remember. I think I rented it. I rented it on DVD, like like before Netflix used to get that, like we'll mail you a DVD and then you send it back.
Yeah.
And I didn't get disc 2, and disc 2 had the alternate ending, so I had to go on YouTube to watch it. But yeah, it's not a bad movie. In fact, like I was thinking about it a few days ago because I think there's like a scene where like he's going around a music store and like selecting music, and like I had that like feeling when I was in a CEX. I don't know if you have them.
We do, yeah.
Yeah. I was in one yesterday, and like I was just looking at all the stacks of DVDs and just thinking, like, if there was an apocalypse, I'd probably be coming back here every day and just like taking more movies and just having like a pile on one side of the room of what I've watched. Because that's probably what I'd end up doing. I was wondered if when you're watching horror movies, are there any ones that are actually frightening to you or scary, or do you think is there a point where you just grow up and just not be scared of films anymore, type thing? I remember the first time I watched Evil Dead when I was it was Evil Dead 2, and like, you know, that those shots with like the camera like speeding along and the loads of, they made me really nervous. And like at some point that kind of stopped. Now I think I only feel uncomfortable when like something really embarrassing is going to happen to a character, and you know it's going to happen. Like I don't feel anything other than that, which is a bit of a shame. I can feel fairly like I don't know. There's certain movies like have like an uncomfortable feeling with me for a while. Yeah. Like I don't know if you've seen Old Boy.
Yes,
the Korean movie. The ending to that, the end twist. Like, I was thinking about that movie for a few days. Yeah, it kind of made me feel a bit uncomfortable. And like, what else was there?
In fact, just the teeth pulling part in that movie just makes you sort of wince. I don't know. I always pull a funny like facial expression whenever I see that scene.
But I was just watching through The Sopranos with a friend yesterday, and like he doesn't like syringes. And there's like a character that's like taking heroin every episode, and he's having to like look away, and I'm just kind of like, I don't even remember the last time I had an injection. So yeah, there's not much like that. The movie Prometheus made me feel a bit uncomfortable as well.
I watched that recently. I've watched it a lot of times, but I did watch it recently, and
there's something about like, I remember watching a documentary, and like the original idea of Alien was that it was like a man's body getting violated with you know, like this thing, and like it you know, killing him during childbirth. You know, it was kind of like, it was supposed to be kind of like an analogy of rape, and like I never felt that. Maybe I watched it too young and just like that skipped over me. But like with Prometheus, there was something really bothered me about like this creature thing that like comes out of her is technically sort of her child. Yeah, and like that. There's something about that. Just
the cesarean scene, I think it was creeping me out. There was certainly a scene in it recently that really creeped me out.
Yeah, it was just like the whole idea that thing's like actually her child. You know, it's like partly her and her boyfriend who's been infected with the black goop, and so it's just kind of like that's their child. It's just, you know, it's been infected like any other, you know, if black goop hadn't been involved, that would be a healthy baby. And that just like, I don't know, that really bothered me.
That was something that Christopher Hitchens said about cancer that sort of struck me, that for a female, getting cancer is in some respects worse psychologically, because like a female who would have given birth had something positive growing inside them now has something that's not positive growing on them, and that kind of.
I can't remember. There's a movie called The Children, and I have a feeling that kind of like made me feel a bit funny. It's basically a movie about like, I don't think it's even explained. It's just like it's a few couples like go to like a house in the countryside for a weekend, and like all the children, children just turn murderous on them.
Yeah, they can like control people, and they.
No, that's Village of the Damned.
Oh, okay.
No, this was just like the children just wanted to kill them, and there's like something about like how small they are and like not strong, but they want to kill you.
Yeah, they should be innocent, but they're really not.
You know, they're not like a massive threat, but you don't want to hurt them back. The movie,
you'd be the worst person in the world if you were seen kicking a child in the head.
The movie The Brood, the David Cronenberg movie, it has like a similar thing of like these deformed, like angry, psychically controlled children, and it's just kind of like they're small and they don't look like they'd be a threat to you, and you wouldn't want to hurt them, but they want you dead. And there's something about that.
I suppose that's the same as zombie movies, where there's always that moment where the character has to decide whether or not they should attack this person that's coming towards them. Is it a real person, or is it
or when it's like a person that like they've known
yeah,
before.
exactly. So there's that kind of that moment of, should I do this, should I not do this? So if it's a child walking up to you, there's that even more so. You think, should I push this person away, or so.
Yeah, there's like I remember when I originally watched the remake of Dawn of the Dead, like I was shocked, like, oh, there's a zombie child in this?
Yeah.
And like I never realised at the time, the original Night of the Living Dead's done that. Basically, since zombie movies have existed, you know, there's been zombie children.
Yeah.
Even it's something that you should just expect.
Even the original Dawn had a couple of children that the main character had to
oh
shoot
yeah, I
as
think
well.
there is a scene. Yeah,
and 28 Days Later, actually, there's a scene where
the boy in the in the restaurant,
the cafe type place. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like zombie children are everywhere, and it's kind of like I got asked recently, like, will you put zombie children in Deadpixels too? And I'm just like, no,
not if we don't have to.
It's kind of, I think people are always disappointed when I say, like, I'm aware that kids play my games, and like there's certain things that like I question doing. Like if it was a film, then that's very different, but like to a certain extent, like I do these kind of cartoony gore, it's not like overly realistic. And like I know from like being at events, like kids like to play my game, so like I'm aware of that. I'm not like, I'm making it for me, but I'm like making certain like little like changes that I know will be a little more acceptable. It's like I've been questioning drug usage in the game, because like the original game had adrenaline and painkillers, and they were clearly syringes. Yeah, and it's like, this is a bit kind of
sending a bad message.
yeah, like so I'm kind of questioning how I'm going to do that. I have like, it has crossed my mind that like it's been a long-standing tradition in video games that like food gives you bonuses. Yeah. So I might switch to being like non-syringe items and just the same effects. But it's kind of like
Red Bull. That the kids seem to go mad for Red Bull.
Yeah. Mountain Dew and like all those like high energy drinks. Monster. I'll get Monster branding for Deadpixels too.
Like a product placement or something.
Yeah, I want to say that one of the Fallout games had Mountain Dew. Like one of the, I want to say it's Brotherhood of Steel, which was a console exclusive. I want to say it had like Mountain Dew instead of Nuke Cola.
Oh right,
which seems that. It's I want to say it's that one, but yeah, I don't think I want to have real brands. I kind of like the idea of making my fake brands. I need to come up with like some fake ones to just kind of like scatter the game through. I know whatever like fake drink I make is going to have like a new version of it. Like, you know, there was New Coke. Yeah, everyone hated it in the 80s. I want to have whatever my fake Coke brand is, it's going to have a new version.
I was wondering, actually, just going back to kind of scary horror movies, or have you ever seen a movie called 1408?
No, I don't think so. I have.
It's John Cusack acts in it, and it was like 2007, I think.
I think I maybe like saw it listed on Netflix, but I never got a chance to watch it.
Because it's, well, I think there's like a period in your life where so you've grown up, you're a kid, and you sort of were scared by things, and then you lose that magic, I suppose, and you no longer you just sort of realise this is just a film, and
yeah,
you get that. But I watched 1408 probably a couple of years after it came out, so probably only like 2009, and I think I was just like in my bedroom watching it in bed late at night, and it was a genuinely scary experience. Like, there was times where I almost, like, I've never had it before, where I almost felt like I felt the urge to turn the TV off or to like stop watching the film. And I've actually, because I was asked the question, what's the scariest film you've ever watched or something, and that seems to top my list, because it's so the plot is the John Cusack is a horror writer, and he goes to hotels that claim to be haunted, and of course none of them are, but he writes books on them anyway. But he gets this one hotel and he's actually told not to go to it by all these people, but he's like, oh yeah, whatever. He's gotten to the point where he thinks he's just totally skeptical about it. But the way the film builds the tension and small things start happening, it just gets really, really terrifying. It's really weird. Because you know why, like, nearly all horror movies now, they rely on jump scares and like music going really loud and stuff like that. Like, I'm trying to think of like scenes, like there's I don't want to spoil too much, but there was one time where he's looking out the window and he's trying to signal to the apartment across the road, and he sees himself on the other side of the road, and it's just, and I'll not spoil what happens, but there's like a series of things that happens after that, in that one scene, and that scene lasts for about maybe 2 minutes, and it's, rather than like something quickly flashing on the screen, stuff just starts happening. It's just like, oh my, this is really freaking me out, and it's just like the hairs in the back of your neck kind of stand up and stuff.
Yeah, I have to say, like, well, I don't feel too bad. I guess it depends on the environment. Like, stuff with ghosts in it does make me feel kind of more tense, depending on how it's done.
Yeah.
I know the movie, it kind of ended up being a bit of disappointment, but Innkeepers, like, has some pretty tense moments. And like, there was a point where I ended up getting a hold of Korean ghost horror movies and watching for them, and they were kind of awful, some of them, but they had tense moments in them. And I kind of like question if it's just like Asian horror there was a period where like Asian horror was just really good. You know, you got stuff like The Grudge and all that.
Yeah, well, it's very similar to The Grudge, where there's just a sort of a continuous shot of something terrifying happening, rather than just, I think too many horror movies just rely on, let's build a scene out of nothing. Like, let's just have like likes of, the one that comes to mind is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake. There's this scene where they're all sitting in the car and like the music's slowly building something. You're like, right, what's going to happen? And then it's just a cop knocking on the window, but it's done in such a way that it's a jump scare. Just to, like, the knock is really loud and everyone in the car jumps, and it's like, oh, you know, it's just like, I don't know, I think it's like a really cliche, cheap thing that horror movies do these days.
Yeah, you also get, like, you can only get like so many jump scares, and then like it loses its effectiveness. I've heard that like Jaws originally had 3 jump scares, and like the last one, which is supposed to be the big one where it's actually the shark,
right,
like, audience didn't react to it, and so they then took out a jump scare, so that like they got a chance to like calm down before like the big one at the end. So like you can only do it so many times in a movie, and then it loses its effectiveness. There's got to be like a certain amount of time between them. Yeah,
it's just it kind of bothers me. But what about the sort of more recent, you know, like these found footage horror movies? Like I just refer to them as Blair Witch movies, but what do you there's like paranormal activity and stuff like that. What do you think of those kind of movies?
I've not actually watched a single of the, like, is there 5 now, the Paranormal
I think
Activity? Yeah, I've not watched any of them yet. Like, I think that would actually be, because it's ghosts and like it's supposed to be real.
I know.
You know, that's going to probably tap into me a bit more than
it's, well, like, I mean, funny, it came out in the same year as 1408. I just looked that up there before the podcast, but I watched Paranormal Activity and I just couldn't really get sucked into the whole concept of it, I suppose, and it just didn't appeal to me. I kind of just, because it's trying to be something it's not. It's trying to be a real found footage. It's trying to make it out like this is real footage. Or like, I think at the end of the video it says something like, this footage was found but it's been reshot and all that. It's just like, don't pretend to be something it's not, at least. And as you said, there's like 5 of them. I watched, before the podcast as well, I watched the trailer for Paranormal Activity. It's called like Ghost Dimensions or something. and I feel like I've watched the trailer, and I feel like I've watched the whole film already, and I've probably seen most of the scary parts in it.
Yeah, that's the shame about like trailers. I actually went to horror movie film festival last April, and like I basically chose to not watch trailers for any of it or look up anything about any of the films. Some of them I had seen, one I'd heard of, and the rest I didn't know, and I just went in blind to them.
Yeah.
And I ended up like really enjoying some of them, because like I literally like went into like the cinema, like sat down and like had no idea what I was about to watch, like even what kind. Like some of them, it's like, okay, this one's called, I think it was like When Animals Dream or something, and it's like I have a slight feeling this might be a werewolf movie, but like some of them I had no idea what it was going to be about. All I had was the name of it, and I really enjoyed like watching a few films like that.
Yeah, as a rule, I've tended to, if I know I'm going to go and see something, I'll not watch the trailer, and I'll not read anything about it, because it just spoils it. You build up an idea of what you're going to go and see, I suppose. But it's because I sent you that email about the new Terminator movie.
Yeah.
And I heard nothing but bad reviews about it after I watched it. But I think going into it without any, as you said, any sort of preconceived ideas of what I was going to see, I just really enjoyed it, so I did.
Yeah, it's been a while, but like sometimes I will just try and see a film like first showing I can. So I'm just not going to see anything. I've not been to this. Well, other than that film festival, I've not been to the cinema. I think like Django Unchained might be the last thing I saw before that film festival. Which is kind of bad, but it's just kind of like I've not got many friends around just now that want to go to films with me, so it's like, okay, I'll end up kind of hanging back a little on some of those films.
How do you rate sort of newer horror movies compared to the older ones? Do you watch many newer ones, or do you tend to stick to the old ones?
I guess I don't watch a lot of new ones. As I say, I went to a horror movie festival, film festival, in April. And like, I think out of the 16 movies, 5 of them were classic movies, and the rest were all new. And they were, for the most part, like European movies, because they were trying to get like the newest stuff possible, like things that hadn't been released in the UK. And like quite a few of them were really good. Like I think there was like, sadly, out of like I think there was 3 American movies, only one was good, I'd say. One kind of fell flat on its face and was all kind of style over substance. Well, I could actually just talk. So Ava's Possessions, I was kind of, that was the one I was looking forward to, like just from like the pictures in the book of like the films I was going to see. I was like, this one looks really colourful, and I love colourful movies. It had great lighting. It was like a Dario Argento movie, and like it just kind of like fell flat on its face, and it even had like a few stars in it. And I was really disappointed with that. And like the other American movies, there was Undead Amigo, which it was a comedy, and like the comedy just didn't work. There was a few funny bits, but not enough. Yeah, it's hard to get that balance. I think I kind of touched on that in that top 10 I made. It has to be done really, really well. And it can be one of those things where like you kind of like finding the balance between horror and comedy can be hard. Like I kind of feel a bit like you had Shaun of the Dead on your top 10 zombie movies, and like I feel it's really good, but like I do feel like the comedy kind of fades away in like the last 10 minutes. And it just becomes like just pure horror. A really good, almost a really good survival movie. Whereas I feel like if you've seen the newest of the Cornetto trilogy, The World's End. I really enjoyed that, actually. I really like that, and like it feels like it keeps comedy going longer. But so there was Amigo Undead, which wasn't that good, and then there was Blood Punch, and like that started kind of bad, but like once it got going, I absolutely loved that movie. And I don't want to get into like spoiler territory, but like it involved like a certain like plot idea that I very much love and will love any film or TV show that does that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that movie, Blood Punch. I think it's out on like iTunes, but it's not had a physical release yet.
Right. What was the general plot, or can you not get into it too much?
It be a mild spoiler. It basically starts off with like 3 people going to a cabin to cook crystal meth.
Okay.
Which like didn't exactly like drugs is often like when drugs are in a horror movie. It's often like okay, you're like aiming for a particular audience that probably isn't me.
Yeah.
Like I have a bit of a dislike of like whenever there's like when stoner culture gets a bit too strong in a horror movie, it's generally not a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Although the one I would say that the one movie that has a stoner character in it that I still think's really good is Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. That's the first thing that came to my mind, especially because you were talking about going to a cabin.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods. I absolutely love that movie.
It was pretty good.
Like
unexpected as well.
Yeah, like I went in knowing some things. The trailer reveals some of the stuff, but not like the full plot.
Yeah.
And like I've tried to convince one of my friends to watch it, and he's like, "Have I seen the trailer? I know what the twist is." And it's like that's not really a twist. That's like exposed right from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just like you think it's going to be the twist.
It gets worse.
There's like another twist. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's I really recommend that, and I really recommend that movie. But it can be kind of hard to like get. I don't know about you, but like nearly all my friends kind of like turn their nose up at horror.
Yeah.
And just kind of like, oh, I don't like horror movies. Like it took so much for me to convince a friend to watch Planet Terror.
Oh, right.
And we'd already watched like Robert Rodriguez's other movies, and we'd watched Machete, and we'd watched like Desperado and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. And then it's like getting him to watch Planet Terror, like I could tell like it was in this pile of movies we were going to watch through, and like I could tell he didn't want to like make it the next one. And eventually I was just like, no, we're going to watch this. And I don't think he was like that into like it when I said we're going to watch it today. And like by the end of the movie he absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Because
it's not, horror can be it can kind of be the theme, or it can be the genre. And like it's not a particularly scary movie, Planet Terror. It's more of an action movie with a horror theme.
Yeah, I did say that in the video. Yeah. There's never really a sense of urgency or anything. They're generally quite comfortable, the characters, with dealing with the actual zombie/mutants.
To an extent, like I can always like the zombie movies that are like, no, zombies are pathetic.
Yeah,
like, It's humans that's the issue.
Yeah,
like, if they start arguing, like I really love, my favorite zombie movie is it's maybe a little bit of a weird choice, the Night of the Living Dead remake. Because I absolutely love when they kind of have that moment of they're so slow, we could just walk by them. They're not strong, they're not fast, they're not smart. It's like the reason you get killed is because you're arguing amongst yourself. And I really like that.
And even Day of the Dead as well, there was a lot of infighting in the groups.
I think like Day of the Dead, while they could like stay in their little like camp for a very long time, like the only real threat was like, oh, there's getting more and more of them outside, and if we shoot them they're going to call more, the sound's going to bring more in. But like they weren't like directly like threatened by them.
No.
It was just kind of like if they hadn't like started infighting, they probably could have lasted a lot longer. And Dawn of the Dead's the same. Like if the biker gang didn't come, they'd be in there a lot longer.
Yeah. I was wondering if there was any sort of old movies that you think deserve a remake, or that have sort of fallen by the wayside and they could benefit from some kind of re-release or something like that, kind of a reboot.
Yeah, that's a hard question, because like there is that danger, like so many remakes are not good.
Yeah.
Like, you end up getting like The Thing was a good remake, The Fly was a great remake. So I think it I'm not sure what, but I think it'd have to be something that like has like a great idea, but isn't great execution.
I suppose it's more because, like you said, the original, you preferred the remake of Night of the Living Dead, so I suppose it's just something.
Yeah, I think that was like, there was the original's like, it was a low budget movie, and it has its flaws. It's a good movie, don't get me wrong, but like it has like issues, especially like looking back. It's been a very long time.
Yeah.
And so like they were able to with the remake, one of the things I love about it is it kind of plays on the fact that it knows you like that original movie and know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like a few twists here and there, and I really like it's kind of updated for a modern time, you know, because Barbara's not like shaking quiet in the corner.
Yeah.
She actually, you know, becomes the main character.
I always kind of felt that the original, they were playing with the whole idea of let's have a black or a black male protagonist, and that was very progressive at the time. And
it was like 68, so it was like a big deal.
And then I think in the remake they were like, let's have a strong female character as the potentially. She wasn't the protagonist really. She was kind of joint with.
Well, I mean, she was kind of joint with Ben, but it kind of like it feels like it followed her, you know, throughout the movie from like start to finish. Whereas like the original, it was like the camera's, you know, following her, and then like when she gets to the farm, like slowly she's just like in the background, and like Ben's the character that kind of gets followed throughout the rest of the movie. I mean, Romero was kind of constantly putting like, you know, hidden like meanings behind his movies, you know, like the Dawn of the Dead being kind of about like materialisticness. And like Day of the Dead being, you know, like I think it was kind of like military government stuff, kind of. Day of the Dead, like I can't remember. I remember when I was like watching your top 10, you were talking about Day of the Dead. Like the original idea for that was like this insane mass grand movie that like got cut for budgetary reasons. Like I think it was supposed to be like a 3-hour epic, and like it got cut and cut. I think the script might be out there. I'm not 100% sure.
He originally wanted the above ground part to be practically like Land of the Dead, where they have this whole community, but they didn't have the budget to do that, so it's practically just a lift that takes you up to a helipad. There's a part of me really still likes that lift though. There's something about it, like the doors opening at the top, and like it just seems like a cool way to protect your like secret base. And then like Land of the Dead, it had like the whole rich versus poor thing, and the kind of like the rich treat the poor the way the poor treat the zombies. And then like I think Diary of the Dead was kind of about like the whole like, I guess sort of like beginning like YouTube generation. Like, well, that's the whole found footage thing, I think, as well. It just sort of seems to be popular at the minute. Let's have a shaky camera.
And then there's Survival of the Dead, which is just the less said about it, the better, in my opinion. I do find it weird that like they basically they found a little Ireland where everyone's got Irish accents, and like there's a zombie riding a horse, and like the whole movie is just about like, oh, let's try and feed this zombie a horse, and prove that it's not the person it used to be, which just goes against Day of the Dead. So I kind of like it because it's the most modern movie, and I don't think Romero's ever going to make another one. So I like I like the quality of it, but I don't like the story really. I think I like, you know, on the like the topic of quality, part of the reason I like the remake of Night of the Living Dead is like that's just the key point where like the special effects are great, but CGI hasn't came in yet. Whereas I feel like Land of the Dead and Diary of the Dead, they have some kind of like now very dated CGI, which it's a bit of a shame. I remember like the first time I saw like CGI blood, I thought it looked great. Well, the first CGI blood that wasn't in Star Trek, where it's like zero gravity blood floating around, but like I don't know if Shaun of the Dead, I know Hot Fuzz had CGI blood, and Land of the Dead has it, and it's just like, the first time I saw it I thought it looked great because I'd never seen anything like that, and now it's just kind of like I've seen it so often, and it looks bad in some of those older movies, and it's a bit of a shame.
There's a scene in Land where there's a zombie has like it's half decapitated but not quite.
Yeah, the spine's still connected.
Yeah, it does that flip forward, and I remember thinking, what a brilliant zombie and all the rest of it. But now watching it's just the CGI is just, it's so off-putting to watch, and it's such a shame.
Yeah, it's you've got like budgetary things as well. Like it costs money to make all that stuff. I don't know if you're aware of it. Tom Savini's currently remaking. Actually, there's what my choice of something that needs remade. Tom Savini's currently remaking Nightmare City.
All right, okay.
And like, my hope is that that's not going to be CGI, being it's Tom Savini making it.
Yeah, that's probably why the remake of Night's so good, because it was Savini was the director.
Yeah, and so like I think I put like £60 in to get the Blu-ray, the Steelbook Blu-ray, because they'd done an Indiegogo,
right.
And I was just, I think I even like tweeted out like, yeah, this is like my thank you to Tom Savini for doing that remake, because he kind of like, that remake was not liked at the time, because it felt like it was too soon, like 30 years is too soon.
Yeah.
And so like, I kind of felt like, well, that was really well. Hopefully you make another movie that's really good. I'll fund this. And like Nightmare City like is the base of a good idea, with some kind of awful parts. I don't know if you've ever seen.
I don't think I've actually seen Nightmare City though.
I'm going to spoil the end of Nightmare City because it's not a particularly great ending. The end of the movie involves like the character like running away from zombies running up the steps alongside like a roller coaster. You know, like there's steps beside for maintenance, and he's running up to like the top of like a big bit, and then I think he falls. And then he wakes up in bed.
Oh, right, okay.
And none of it happens. And then he gets a call to go to the airport, which is where the movie began.
Yeah.
And then just basically the movie's about like this plane lands and all these like irradiated, indestructible people pour out. And no one knows where they came from or why they're like that. And basically the movie ends with like the plane landing and then like a text scroll coming up saying the nightmare has become reality. And it's just...
I think the whole waking up from a dream thing is done a lot, but sometimes I actually really like it. There was a horror movie, and it's going to kill me because I always forget what it's called, but it's this guy, and he wakes up and goes to this house, and he doesn't know why he's going to this house, but during the movie he's told scary stories by the guests, and he's like, the whole time he's really confused about why he's there. And he just, at the end of the movie, he goes mental and just kills everyone in the house, and then wakes up in his bed. But he then gets into a car and goes to the house again, and it's just kind of like repeating itself. And I must look out the name of that, but it was a really old, it was black and white, and the three stories that are told inside the movie are actually as interesting as the movie. They're all short stories, but they're quite good. It's kind of like, I mean, you've kind of watched the Twilight Zone episodes.
I've seen some episodes. I need to see the movie because there was the movie. Like,
I don't know if I've actually seen the movie. I
want to say it's directed by John Landis, who done American Werewolf in London.
I don't think I love the original black and white, and they're all just pretty much 1 hour long, what feel like small movies, and that's kind of what this film was like. It was just like short stories that felt like Twilight Zone with a twist at the end, and that was one way of actually using that dream sequence as an interesting, I think.
Yeah, the anthology show I watched recently was Tales from the Crypt, because I managed to get like, I've got all but the 7th season, and I watched through that 2 years ago ish, when I was preparing for a show and I needed to show Deadpixel off, and I knew I'm very often just like, I need a TV show to like watch through, and not be thinking about, okay, what am I going to put on as a distraction. And so like I've watched through things like Buffy and Angel and X-Files and all kinds of stuff, just as like, and so like Tales from the Crypt was the thing I watched at one point. I think there's a show called Tales from the Dark Side, which is very similar to Tales from the Crypt, where it's kind of Tales from the Crypt is the officially licensed version that Tales from the Dark Side wanted to be. Have you seen the Creep Show movies?
I don't think so.
They're kind of like anthology movies as well, like 3 or 4 stories each movie, and they kind of like have this, like, this is part of a comic that someone's reading, and the comics are based on the Tales from the Crypt comic. Or the idea of it anyway. And so like Tales from the Crypt was the properly licensed thing, and Tales from the Dark Side was the Creep Show TV show. And so I kind of wouldn't mind, watching that, because it'd be, half hour, 45 minutes, episodes of, different horror story each one.
I actually, whenever I was a kid, I remember Tales from the Crypt came on, and it's like introduced by a kind of zombie ghoulish.
Yeah, the Crypt Keeper.
He terrified me as a child. I was traumatized by seeing this kind of, the fact that it was talking to you the same way as any other person would just talk to you.
Yeah, they have some great like puppet stuff to like. I want to say it's like actual people's hands from like under the counter, to give it like quite a bit of like movement, and like it has remote controlled face to like give it quite a lot of emotion.
Because there was pretty much a child friendly version of that, and it was. I
think it was Tales from the Crypt Keeper was the cartoon version that was the.
No, what I mean is it was a rip-off of it, and it was called Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah,
have you ever seen that?
There's like Goosebumps as well around the same time, and I remember watching a lot of those. I
think they're all just ripping off the original Twilight Zone episodes, like that kind of short story with a twist at the end and
I think it was all like like Twilight Zone. I think a lot of them were like based on actual like short stories. They'd like get the rights to use and then adapt. There was a few different anthology shows. There's like there was The Outer Limits.
Oh yeah,
which
I
was
think
one
I've seen
like,
some of that as well.
I used to really love that, and there was like a sci-fi version of Tales from the Crypt called Perversions of Science, which I think only ran like 13 episodes and was on at 1 a.m.
I don't think
I remember staying up and watching that. And like, I'm trying to think what other anthology shows there were. There's a British one that's, I don't know if it's getting a third season, Inside Number 9, which has got 2 of the League of Gentlemen behind it, where it's like, it is very different. Like, there are some episodes that are very much a comedy, and then there are some that are very much a horror. And like, it kind of jumps around, so it's a bit of like kind of like an odd mix inside Number 9. Like, it's kind of hard to recommend because
it's a bit hit and miss, probably some of it.
It's not just kind of like hit and miss, but it's like completely different genres and feelings. Like, there are some episodes that I could only describe as being a comedy, and like some where it's like, no, this is just kind of a drama. But like they've got kind of like dark sense of humor, running through. So they kind of like that, and they're all like it's called Inside Number 9 because each episode is like contained within somewhere. Like the idea was they'd done a show previously called Psychoville, and there's one episode of it that's entirely set in a flat. And they really liked the idea of like, we had this one episode entirely contained in this flat, and so they made a show based off that.
I think I've seen it. I must have seen something of that. It rings a bell what you're talking about. I don't think I've seen it, but
Psychoville was okay. It was kind of very similar to League of Gentlemen, dark kind of humor. It played on a lot of like horror tropes. It wasn't too bad for its like comedy, and like there was a kind of like a plot going throughout it where there was a bit of mystery to it, and I was like kind of interested in like how it tied together. And plus I just kind of like anything that like brings together all these like different tropes. Like I quite like the TV show American Horror Story.
I've seen parts of it, like
like it's another kind of like anthology show of like every season is a different story and different characters, and so some are better than others. I really like the second season, which is set in an insane asylum, and they are very willing to just like throw every like horror thing they can think of like in the show. And so the second season has like everything from like ex-Nazi war criminals that experimented on people in the concentration camp, and like aliens. And
I seen parts of the asylum part.
I really like the asylum one. The first one's quite good as well. I rewatched that a while ago. The third season's set in like a witch's coven in New Orleans, and the fourth is a freak show set in the 50s. And the new one, it's began a few weeks ago in America. I've not watched it yet, but it's set in a hotel, which seems like a great place, like for like various characters and plot lines and like what happened there in the past.
That's kind of what that 1408 movie is, obviously set in a hotel, and there's something really freaky about it kind of plays on that who has been in the room before you and what has happened in that room before you. And there is that general, whenever you walk into a hotel room, you do kind of think, you feel a bit weird sitting on a bed that probably lots of people have done very strange things on. And
and you don't know, like, if someone's killed themselves in that room. For all you know, you don't know any of that. I was at EGX, Eurogamer Expo, a few weeks ago, and like I got the cheapest hotel I could find in Birmingham, and like my room was like, it felt like something out of a David Lynch movie. Like there was no natural light could like directly touch that room because of like its outlook into like this like courtyard where it was too tight for like sunlight to get in, and like there was like, on the way there, like there's all these little oddities, like there's like clearly like hidden doorways in the walls,
wallpaper's been put over it or something.
Like you can see the crack like where it opens, and like there was oddities with the lifts and stuff, and like my room had 7 light switches, and I worked out what all but one of them operated.
The last one was the camera that was watching you.
Maybe, and there was like a dimmer switch that did nothing. There was no main light in the room. It was just lamps dotted around, and they all had these green shades on them. It made the room green.
You were probably dimming the lights in
like,
the next room or something.
I could have been. And like it was just all weird. And like I remember one of the nights when walking back to the hotel, I couldn't help thinking, like, if anywhere is haunted in the world, it is this hotel. And then the Rayleigh channel happened to have their paranormal night, and so I like sat there in the dark watching documentaries on ghosts, and just thinking, like, I'm not going to sleep tonight. Why the hell did I do this? But just kind of being like slightly fascinated of like, I don't know, they were varying qualities. The documentaries on ghosts, they ranged from the people going into a haunted place and, you know, having the night vision cameras and insisting they heard things. And
turn the lights on and there's nothing there.
And like they would repeat, like they'd pick up like a noise on their microphone and they just repeat it until like you were semi-convinced that it was saying a word that they said it was, but originally it just sounds like a creak. And it was some of them were fairly bad, but like some of them were kind of interesting of like, oh, this person died of, I can't remember, tuberculosis in your house 100 years ago. And in your attic, we found like this secret door that led into like more attic. And that was probably the room they lived in because people with tuberculosis had to be isolated from the rest of the family. And it's like, that's pretty dark. So you get like, I don't know, I quite like watching documentaries on paranormal stuff. If I don't watch much TV, but like, if I find that stuff, I do like to watch it. Just I don't know.
Did you watch the Shining documentary, the Room 237?
Yeah, I've seen that. It's kind of a bit of a that documentary is a great example of like, if you're obsessed enough with something, you will find what you're looking for.
See, that's the thing. I mean, it got some bad reviews. People said like, I mean, and yes, some of it is a bit out there. But there's a good line where the guy in the movie says something about those references, even if Stanley Kubrick wasn't aware of them at the time he made them, they're there for people to find, and they are there. So they're still valid because, you know, even the person that's criticizing the movie actually brings something to the movie by doing that.
Yeah, it's. I thought it was a very interesting documentary. I think it's one of those things where like you don't really need to look at it. You could actually just listen to it because it's mostly just showing clips of Stanley Kubrick movies. But it was quite interesting. I quite enjoyed watching it.
Even the likes of the whole moon landing thing. I think perhaps Stanley Kubrick thought, oh, Danny's going to be standing up. It would be cool if he wore a t-shirt that had the Apollo rocket on it.
Yeah.
But I don't think that necessarily, you know, let's not jump to the conclusion that Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing.
Yeah, and I think someone like changes their trousers like mid-scene. Like it's clearly been shot twice, and someone had some theory about like it being like the real conversation versus the not real conversation or something like that. And it's just no, you can get a bit overly obsessed.
Oh yeah. No one's that meticulous. I think Stanley Kubrick was a genius, but I don't think anyone is quite as crazy as that. But I thought, I mean, there was certain references like the I knew it was an Indian burial ground whenever I watched it, and I thought it was like the whole Indian thing, but I didn't when I first watched it get the whole Nazi Germany references and the Holocaust. But the one thing that was like the fact that it was all about the past and how the past impinges on the present, and how actually the past doesn't actually exist other than in your mind and stuff like that. That was all. I would think Stanley Kubrick knew that, and he definitely put things like that in there, and I just didn't realise that until I watched the documentary. So
the interesting thing about The Shining, like, there's all these crazy theories, but like people still can't even like agree on the ending of that movie, what it means.
Yeah.
Like I've read like different theories. I didn't see The Shining for a really long time. I think I only saw it like maybe 2 years ago for the first time.
Okay.
And so it was just kind of like, I've only seen it the once, and it was just kind of like a lot of like me just like, what does that mean? And like looking up different theories online. So like we can't even agree on what the actual plot of the movie is. Never mind, you know, what the hidden meaning is. Yeah.
There's when you were talking about your the hotel room you were staying in, it reminded me of a movie called Barton Fink. Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah.
Well, the hotel room you described reminded me of the hotel room he was in, and that was just one of those movies that it's just, I still don't understand the plot to that movie.
What's in the box at the end?
Yeah. And that part where the girl is sitting in the at the beach at the end, he says, "Hey, are you in pictures?" Because there's an exact picture of her in his room, of like a girl sitting at the beach with the back to the picture, and it's basically a painting of him sitting looking at this girl. It's just, the whole thing was so bizarre.
I remember like when EGX is now at the NEC in Birmingham, and it's got a sister show called Rezzed, and I was at Rezzed 2014 when it was at the NEC, because they switched locations, and now Rezzed's down in London. And like when I was there, I remember talking to some person and saying about how like I'm just like sitting around in my hotel room at night, like looking at stains on the wall and stuff. And he's like, "Oh, it's just like Barton Fink."
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. Then my John Goodman, who was in the room beside me and him, we just wrestled for a while.
Yeah. That was set the hallway on fire for no particular reason.
Right.
That was a weird film. I should have brought this up when we were talking about the Sloveni remix he's doing, but what do you think of the whole Friday the 13th summer camp game?
Do you know what's really weird? Like, I was watching the Kickstarter to that, and like I was kind of skim reading the names that popped up, and one of the guys, I was just like, I met him at PAX.
Nice.
So I shot him like a quick tweet. It's like, did you come around my booth to say hi at PAX? And he was like, yeah, you have a great memory. It's like he's the person that done like the Deadpixel's box art. Okay. He's friends with the guy that's like heading that game.
Oh, okay.
And so that was kind of like a weird. Oh yeah, the games industry's quite small. I'm not like Jason. If I was to like list like my order of like how I like the horror, the horror franchises, Jason's not the top of the list for me. Yeah. But I quite like the idea of that game. It looks quite cool. I'm hoping, I'm probably not going to back it, but I'll probably play it when it comes out. I'm presuming it's going to get backed.
Yeah. I think I don't know, they're not trying to get back, they're just trying to fund the adding of like Jason or something. I'm not sure how it works.
They're looking for like $750,000, so right. If they don't get that,
okay.
I don't know.
Well, because I remember it was originally going to be called Summer Camp, and it was like Sloveni was already on board and stuff.
I saw Sloveni like tweeting about it a few times, and I kind of was left feeling a bit like, what's he going to do for a video game?
Yeah.
But apparently he's planning like deaths and like ways to do gruesome deaths and stuff. They're just over halfway in like 3 days, so like they're probably going to make it. I'm not sure how much. $750,000. No, it's $700,000 they're looking for. So it's quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
And like,
could be interesting. I just like the fact Savini's on board. I just like whenever I hear
they've got like Savini, and they've got like Kane Hodder, played Jason in multiple movies, and like I think they've got like the original composer and the original director, which is weird because the original director, his movie didn't have Jason in it. Because Jason like only actually properly appeared in the second movie.
Because it was his mother.
Yeah, like he appears in a dream, and not another movie that has the dream ending. But yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that. I'm kind of wondering like if it's going to be based on any particular continuity with Jason.
Yeah,
because like there's a few different, like I've heard arguments that like Jason Goes to Hell is set in like a universe where like the films also exist, which is weird. Yeah. Which is why like Jason's like mildly considered a celebrity. It's because like the films also exist in that universe, and I don't know. It's kind of weird.
It sounds to me like it's actually based on the NES game, because that sounds pretty much just like the.
I'm hoping they have like the color swap, so you can have them like. I actually have the action figure that's purple with like the light blue mask. I have that on my desk. I absolutely love it. Like, as much as I'm not like a big Jason fan, like I absolutely love the doing something that looks realistic but with that color scheme. Yeah.
Is there any other horror movies that you think that would make a good game, or that you've always wanted to play?
I don't know. I mean, I think like I'd say something like Dawn of the Dead. Like, I'd probably love like a realistic zombie survival, but it seems we're actually getting that now.
Slowly, it's just. I mean, it's always the thing I've wanted, and Dead Rising came close, but it didn't focus on survival enough, like to the point where like you have to barricade stuff up and do all that kind of stuff. State of Decay was pretty decent, but I'd be really interested to see what they come up with the next installment, because they are making a second one.
There's Project Zomboid as well, which I've not played in a very long time, but they were going for like the super kind of realistic version. I like
the look of it, but again, I think it would need to be either first person or third person, just to get really totally engrossed in it for me, like for that kind of game, I think.
Yeah, and you get the stuff like the online stuff like DayZ and stuff like that. I've only played the mod version. I've never played the proper game of DayZ.
I think, but with what both of them put me off with was you're basically playing an army simulator with zombies in it that aren't really good. Even the standalone title, the zombies still just look like, I don't know, kind of crappy or something.
Yeah, they're pretty much like shoehorned in. It's kind of like you kind of quickly get over that, and it kind of becomes this thing of like the zombies aren't a threat, it's other people. I remember like showing the game to a friend. This is where I'm like, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, sure.
So I showed DayZ to a friend, and like I died eventually, and I let him have a go. And his interaction was he found a house, and he just heard someone say on voice chat, "Hey you, yeah you, fuck you," and he got shot in the head.
Oh, nice.
And I was just like, that's great.
Yeah,
that's exactly what the zombie apocalypse will be. Like straight after that, like I had a go, and like I found a gun, and like I had a few bullets, and like I saw two people at the end of the field, and like we both just like had this Mexican standoff.
Yeah,
and my friend's like, "Why don't you go over to them?" And it's like, he was like, "You've got a gun, you could probably take them." And I was like, "Yeah, but they might have two guns. I don't know. They might want to take my stuff."
Yeah.
And like eventually we just like I started backing off, and they started backing off as well.
Yeah.
And
I suppose that's the interesting part with the game, is the interaction with the other players more than anything.
Yeah, it's I kind of really love stuff like that. What's not a zombie game, Rust, it's another one of those open survival games. Like I've heard like one of the things they're doing is they're randomizing people's appearance, and your appearance is tied to your Steam account forever, and like eventually they're going to remove your name above your head, so that like people will have to recognize each other by what they look like, and like you won't be able to like pretend you're someone else. unless because you're wearing a helmet or something, and then it might be like take your helmet off when you know who you are. I don't know. I really love the idea that like people would possibly be like describing other people to each other and like to get revenge and like know who to look out for.
Yeah.
I don't know, I really love the idea of like,
wanted posters up.
Yeah, I'd love the like. I have heard of like I was reading through I think it was like some guy had like played Rust for like 2 weeks and he'd like kept a journal, and like at one point he'd got like robbed by some people and they'd killed him. And then, like, one of his friends he'd made on that server, like, basically tracked them down. And, like, basically said, this is for such and such, and then just shot them.
Yeah, nice.
And then, like, sent them a message just saying it's been taken care of. I'd really love those kind of interactions.
It's weird because there is a community element is in some games really lacking. The latest multiplayer I played was Metal Gear Solid, and it actually the Metal Gear Solid 5 Online, it actually splits you up. You can't actually play on the same team together even though you're in the same party, and what happens is you end up just more or less always playing against each other, and it's really annoying. I don't know why some games try and push the whole community element away from it and try not to let you play with your friends, and I think it's quite annoying.
Yeah, I don't play a mass amount of like online stuff. Most of the stuff I play is like either like just quick games like TF2 where I'm just like, oh yeah, I want to do like a quick game, and I often used to play with the same people. Or I'll do stuff like cooperative stuff like Left 4 Dead. Which I'm surprised we haven't seen a third one yet.
I know. Well, I mean, the same could be said about Half-Life, but I mean, I think they are making the new Source engine, so I'm really hoping there's like a Left 3 Dead or something like that they bring out.
Yeah, I'd really like a third one of them, because I quite liked the way they done stuff. Like that was a bit of a there was a lot of kind of inspirations taken from Left 4 Dead without me realizing it with Deadpixels. Just like the way that like they kind of like the backstory of the zombie apocalypse is just kind of like it's there, it's not kind of shoved in your face, and there's like little mentions and stuff, characters will say stuff, and I really like that. It's not as in your face as some games, but it's there if you want to like find out about it.
Yeah, there's even that new Call of Duty's coming out, and there's like a zombie mode in it. But it's the whole 4 people thing, and it's just whenever I see 4 characters standing together that are kind of from different backgrounds and they're in a zombie world, you just kind of automatically think that's Dead Right or that's Left 4 Dead. It's almost sort of set a mold for other games to follow.
Yeah, it's a shame. Like the Left 4 Dead, it wasn't just like you're in this one place defending against zombies. You're actually like you're going out there and you're having to do something. And I don't think many other games have like done that.
It's a bit like the whenever the Dawn of the Dead remake was being made, the director said that he only seen the guns as something that allows you to get quickly from one place to the other, and he never seen it as like you'll be able to just maul down lots of zombies. And in Left 4 Dead, it's kind of like just run and gun, and all you're doing is just really holding them off long enough to run to the next part.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. And actually, staying still in one part of the level didn't do you any favors. Like if you didn't keep going, you were kind of going to the zombies would just keep swarming in on you, so you weren't doing yourself any favors.
I've just remembered that there is actually a Romero zombie video game.
There is it Land of the Dead?
Yeah, there's a Land of the Dead game on Xbox called The Road to Fiddler's Green, which is about really travelling to Fiddler's Green.
I was really excited about that game coming out, and then it didn't actually come out over here. It came out on PC.
It was on Xbox, I know that.
I think it was on the American Xbox or something. It didn't get like a really good release over here because it didn't get too good reviews and stuff.
Possibly.
And the only way to really properly play it, I think, for us was on PC, and I know someone that actually did a playthrough of it and he quite liked it, but I just it didn't deliver what I was hoping for. I loved that. I loved the whole harpoon gun in that film and
Yeah.
zombie deaths and stuff. And I was just kind of hoping to relive. I mean, that's just what. Whenever I buy any zombie game, I kind of hope to relive things in films. So that's part of why I loved the original Deadpixels, because there was all these like references to stuff, and I think that was what put me off the Land of the Dead game. It didn't, for me, replicate the movie enough, or like it just didn't seem like it had enough in common with the actual.
I think something I'd like to see, and there is actually a game kind of based around this idea. I've not played it though, of the idea of like managing survivals. You know, like making your own Fiddler's Green. And like going out there and searching for food. There's the Rebuild games. I want to say they're developed by Sarah Northwood, and like they're supposed to be quite good. The third one's on Steam. Like the original one was a Flash game you could play for free, and then there's a mobile game, and then the third one's like a Steam release. And I want to say it's now out, but I really like that idea of like managing like a group of survivors. Like I have to say, like I really like. Part of the reason I wanted, when I'd done Deadpixels 2, I was like, I want this to be set like years after the zombie apocalypse and have like groups actually established, you know, not just the like, there's so many movies that are just about that beginning, you know, when the infection starts. Like I'm really interested in like what happens next. Yeah.
Well, that's why I liked Even Land was set quite far into the future, and there's something about whenever you're watching it, you're thinking, I wouldn't have done that, I would have got my people to do this, and like that's why I would always love a game to have those kind of decisions, because you get to do what you want, and you make your own mind up and stuff.
Yeah, it's something that like probably should be explored a bit more. Like the I guess like it's a pretty niche thing of like management, and then like, you know, a horror theme or like a post-apocalyptic theme or something like that. But I'd really love to like see more of that. Just like sending people out to like scavenge stuff. Yeah, that's something I'd probably like to see a bit more of. I did think about like making a zombie apocalypse like management game, but I don't think that I want to do a big project like that.
Yeah.
Or at least not for a while. I feel like I want to do small.
There's scavenging elements and stuff in Deadpixels though, the Deadpixels 2, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's like the finding the loot and like selling it.
Yeah.
There's still all that, and there's an actual like hub survivor group. There's like a couple of little groups, you know, that you could be selling stuff to.
Yeah.
As well as like I'm planning to have like there is like an established like infrastructure. I don't know, like have you? Well, I think you've maybe mentioned you watched the Walking Dead TV show. Have you ever read the comics?
No, I haven't actually seen any of the comics.
Like I'm almost caught up. I'm a little behind, but I really like where the comics are just now, because like they have pretty much like established like a lifestyle, you know, like multiple groups working together and like you know, producing various things in like farms that are like you know, walled off and stuff like that. And I just really like the idea of that. And so like Deadpixels 2 is like set more in that kind of world of like, okay, it's set in a city, but there's like multiple groups within the city that are like working together. I think I even said in an interview once that like, in my opinion, all the people that don't want to work with anyone else probably have got killed off.
Exactly.
Because like they were being assholes, so they were the ones that died.
Even if that means working with the likes of the biker gang from Dawn, even if it means working together in a sinister way, they're still working together. You know, there's strength in numbers, I suppose. So
yeah, like I highly recommend like the more recent like Walking Dead comics, because they deal with a lot of that stuff, and like the like the more forceful like groups that are out there that kind of like want to bring people under them.
Yeah.
And it is, I really like the Walking Dead comics. I kind of gave up on the TV show a little, which is I don't know. I sometimes like think maybe I should get back into it, but I just kind of felt like at the end of season 3, I didn't care about what was going on, and I was just constantly comparing it to the comics that I thought were better. So
yeah, my problem with it is I don't have Sky and I don't have BT Vision or something it's called.
Yeah.
So just getting access, I think it's on Fox or something, and I just don't have access to it. So what I've done is I've just kind of bide my time, and I'm now going to buy. There's a full season 4 box set. I'll buy that, and it's quite cheap at the minute actually. So I'm going to get that, and then I'll buy like season 5 and stuff, and just work my way through. I would prefer. I hate having to wait a whole week to watch the next thing. I just love being able to just, stick the next DVD in and stuff.
I think it depends on the show for me. Like, there's some where like I feel like having that time to like think like improves it a bit. Whereas if I marathon it, each episode doesn't have the same effect. Like I really loved watching Dexter like each week. I mean, it kind of like took a dip in later seasons, but there was this is still horror related in my opinion. Dexter. There's a season with John Lithgow in it, and like I thought that was a really good season. And like a friend watched it, and like he just like pushed through it, watching each episode straight after each other, and he didn't like that season. And I think it was just kind of like I had all these breaks and just kind of like thinking about it and like thinking about what had just happened and what was going to happen. And it was one of those like I respect John Lithgow as an actor much more because of that season. He was really good in it.
I think it's probably more a practical thing for me. It's just I don't like missing an episode and then I can't then catch up because it's on TV and you've missed it. And
I don't watch TV anymore because like I used to try, and it's just like I'd end up doing something and just missing it. My lifestyle's not based around I have to watch this at this time.
Yeah exactly. So I don't think anyone's is. I think everyone has sort of moved on from that.
Yeah, I think unless I've got like some alert to come up on my computer, or it's some like big event. But if it's something that's every week, I'm going to miss it constantly. And so like that's when like I'll use BBC iPlayer a lot to catch up on things rather than watching them live.
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered quite a lot there. Actually, I'm looking forward myself to listening back to this and watching some of the movies you've mentioned, because there's quite a few there that I didn't know about the other Sloveni remake, so I'm going to probably dig out the original of that and stuff. So I was wondering if we could end just maybe, is there any more progress on a date in mind for Deadpixels 2, or is it kind of...
So I'm kind of like currently saying like 6 months-ish from now.
Right.
Basically, I've kind of like, there is multiple like gaming events in like a 3-week period. There is 3 different gaming events, I think, next year. Actually, I think it's in 4 weeks. There's 3 different gaming events, and so I just feel like that'd be a good thing to really aim for now.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like really trying to get my head down and trying to get like as much done this year as I can, and then like trying to make just like what's left next year, like the easier stuff. Which now that I've got like someone working on art and like I've got a like to-do list that's this big long list of like everything, it's gonna hopefully be much easier. I'm also currently for like October, I started a little late, but I'm doing a zombie a day art-wise and posting that on Twitter.
Okay.
And it's not like I'm not coding and like doing all the frames of animation. I'm just doing like the first like image of a particular zombie idea, and then like at a later date I'll like be coding them and like doing all the other frames of animation. But hopefully like end of this month I'll have basically 31 new zombies to add in.
Oh, cool.
And so that's
lots of zombie legs as well.
Yeah, lots of legs to animate and
your favorite.
At least like these are like the shambling like crappy zombies. I've currently got like 2 bosses that are being animated just now by my artist, so it's like they're the more complex ones, where it's like
more movement. I guess
basically one is based on like Michael Jackson Thriller, so he needs to be very like not stiff and like rigor mortis, and another one is a zombie hippo. So like again, it needs to be like able to kind of move, and it's got 4 legs, so it needs to animate well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well look, really looking forward to seeing that, and I'll make sure and share everything you put up on Twitter too. And thanks again for coming on.
No problem.